What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Baseball Now podcast. I am your host, Mason Braggins. Unfortunately, Steven unavailable today, but we're heading into All-Star break this week, so there are no games for today. We're going to take a look at the All-Star break, kind of just some predictions. We're going to take a look at the full rosters. There have been a lot of changes to the rosters over the past weeks or so, with different players pulling out due to injuries, personal reasons, or whatever. So a lot of different names being named to the rosters because of that. We're not going to take a look at top 10 today. I will make a post about it on the social media pages, though, so you will still be able to take a look at that. But we're just going to dive right in. I do want to talk about the Dodgers first, who got, as a Dodgers fan, this, just kind of sucks to watch, but getting swept by the Diamondbacks at home to end the first half of the season. But the Brewers also went on a 3-game losing streak, so the Dodgers remain alone as the only 60-plus win team in the majors right now. But the Brewers, if they come back from the All-Star break and win one game, they'll have that. They'll hit 60 games. I think it's really interesting to see kind of how the last week or so, I guess, panned out. If we want to take a look there. Can't really view the last week or so, but I mean, if we take a look at the last 10, you could say, we'll start in the American League. The Red Sox lead the AL East across the last 10, going 9-1, followed by the Orioles, who are 7-3, then the Yankees, who are 6-4, and then the Rays and Blue Jays, both 5-5. And an interesting thing to note here, the Red Sox are on a 9-game winning streak. Across their last 10 games, they have won 9 out of the 10 with 9 straight wins, which is insane. They've crawled their way back from the bottom of the barrel, one of the worst teams in baseball to start the season. They are now 46-48, 10 games back behind the Rays. And that, I think it's 7 games back behind the Yankees. They're 2 games out of 500, plus 27 run differential. The Red Sox are amazing right now. This last week and a half, you could say, really, I mean, the last 2 weeks for the Red Sox have been phenomenal because, we go just a few games back to go a full 2 weeks. They lost one, and, before that, I think we talked about this last week, they swept the Yankees. Very, very insane, you could say, considering that this team was like, oh man, these guys are not in it this year, but they're looking like they're in it. I mean, if you take a look at the wild card, the Red Sox are 5th in the wild card, which isn't a terrible spot to be in the first half of the season. Still definitely a very solid chance that they can pull it back as long as they play well going to the back half of the season. They could very well make the wild card in the American League if they continue to play like they did over the last 2 weeks. In the AL Central, once again going by last 10 record, you have the Twins and Tigers both tied at 7-3, followed by the Guardians, who are 6-4, the White Sox 5-5, and then the Royals, who are 3-7. The Royals are one of the worst teams in baseball right now. Unfortunately, I think it's just sad to see. You got Bobby Witt Jr. on the team. An easy All-Star every single season that he's been in the league. He's an incredible player. And I mean, you also have Salvador Perez, who's having a okay year, at least behind the dish, not at the dish, you could say. Caglione also having a fantastic season. Miguel Garcia, another great season, 261. Yeah, I think it's just their pitching. They don't have a single starting pitcher who has an ERA below 3. And only just a handful of bullpen arms with an ERA below 3. So I think it's just, unfortunately, to the dismay of the Royals bullpen, that is kind of just keeping them out of games. I mean, getting swept by the Orioles before the break, series lost to the Mets before the break. They won against the Phillies, but were swept by the Rays before that. It's honestly pathetic, you could say, at the very least. You take a look at this team, it's like, oh, these guys are good, and they're not really good, you could say. But I don't think that the Royals are a team that we're going to see really come back into contention starting the second half of the season after All-Star break. But You never know. It's baseball. Things could change. In the AL Central, the Guardians and White Sox are tied for first place. Both have the same winning percentage. The Guardians have played 2 more games than the White Sox, but because both one win and one loss in each category, that winning percentage stays the same. Uh, but yeah, I mean, the White Sox looking incredible. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, um, Munetaki Murakami has been announced to be participating in it. I'm pretty sure. A reminder: this will come out before, or this should be out before it starts. So, a reminder: watch the Home Run Derby. Unfortunately, it's on Netflix, and we know how bad Netflix is at streaming. So it might be really awful to watch, but uh, I hope I hope it's good to watch. Coverage starts at 7 p.m. Eastern time today. Yeah, just really hope that the Home Run Derby coverage on Netflix is okay today, because to start the season they streamed that Giants Yankees opening series and it was awful. They've done a couple other sports streaming events and they were also awful. So hopefully Netflix can, it's good. That's all I could really say about it. I just hope it's good because it would suck. The Home Run Derby is one of my favorite events of the year. Um, once we hit the All Star, but I enjoy it more than I enjoy the actual All Star game. I would say, just watching dudes just get to actually pump some balls into the deep outfield, like that's just so much fun to watch. Um, yeah, so I just I hope the stream is good. Um, yeah, hopefully, we'll go over the participants later. I want to get through the rest of the last 2 weeks or so. We'll move into the AL West. Again, going by last 10, the Rangers lead it at 5-5. So that is kind of saying a lot for the rest of this division. Next, tied at 4-6 are the Mariners and Astros. Then the Angels at 2-8, and then the Athletics at 1-9. Uh, Athletics on a 9 game losing streak. It's kind of sad to see they were atop the AL West for but a moment, and now they're back at the bottom of the barrel where most people probably had them going into this season. But this entire division is really just mediocre. Um, it'd be really interesting to see where the teams really go from here, to say the least. There's only one team with the positive run differential. It's the Mariners, who actually have a losing record. The Rangers have a winning record, but without Corey Seager. But hopefully the All-Star break and the extra rest will rejuvenate him. I think it'll be good for a lot of teams who are injury ridden right now, or a lot of their star players are out. Who were predicted to come back right, like during the All Star break, kind of a thing. But hopefully the extra few days of rest will really help injured players get back in there. I'm thinking, Shohei Ohtani, who actually opted out of the All Star game because he's dealing with a knee issue. Hopefully, the extra days off will help him get back there. I do believe players who are named to the All Star roster but then pull out still get that All Star accolade. I'm not sure. I actually can look that up real quick. Um, but I mean, the American League is, I don't know. It's really just a hot mess. There are not a lot of teams with winning records in the American League right now, um, especially in the AL East. It'd be really interesting to see what that division looks like as we get into the back half, because of how many teams have losing records. Um, yeah, it's honestly just a little bit sad, to say the least. Um, so hopefully things turn out a little bit better. Um, Forgot to change this. Let's do this. All Star Week look ahead. It's kind of important to know what we're talking about this week. Okay, there we go. See, we got the All Star, and then the players who pull out of the All Star game. I don't know how to specifically search this, but I'll search that. Yeah, I believe. Yeah, players who decline playing, um, and still, yeah, and they do still get that accolade. Sorry, just had to quickly look it up. Had to confirm for myself. Sorry. Um, yeah, but as I was saying, the whole AL East. I mean, there are only, what am I looking at? 5 teams out of the 15 who have winning records compared to the National League, where one, two, three, four, five, 6, 7, 8 teams of the 15 have winning records, and then one team at exactly 500 in the National League. And we'll move right into the National League. We'll start with the NL East. Leading the division over the last 10 is the Marlins, 6-4. Tied at 5-5 are the Phillies and Braves. Tied at 4-6 are the Nationals and Mets. So kind of just, I don't know, some pretty mediocre ways to end the season, you could say. The Marlins, Nationals, and Mets all went on a 3-game losing streak to end the season, which is unfortunate for those teams. I mean, the Marlins looking like a really hot team as of late. Very excited to see how that team keeps playing over the once we get into the back half of the season. But I don't know. Didn't think that this team would be as good as they are, to say the least. In the NL Central, we have the Pirates leading 7-3 across their last 10, who ended the season sweeping. They swept the Brewers, which is kind of insane to end the season. And then you have the Cubs at 6-4, the Brewers at 5-5, and then the Cardinals and Reds at 4-6. All really great teams. I mean, the NL Central, once again, the winningest division, you could say, of the MLB so far. 4 of those teams having a winning record. The only team is the Reds, who we thought were good for a moment, and then immediately fell off. Yeah, they've not been doing too hot as of late. Just a lot of up and down for this team. Not really sure, what it's looking like for this team once we get into the back half. And then lastly, the NL West. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Because I'm really tired this morning. Diamondbacks leading the division 6-4. And then you have the Dodgers, Padres, and Giants all tied 5-5. And then the Rockies 4-6. Yeah, so I mean the Diamondbacks sweeping the Dodgers at home to end the season. Dodgers getting swept obviously after, I don't. I feel like the Dodgers have always ended the first half of the season like this, and, but it always worries me when it happens. Lots of errors across the few games. I mean, you look at, I think alone, the Dodgers committed double the amount of errors that they had committed all season in their last 5 games. I believe is correct. Yeah, it's just shocking, honestly. As a Dodgers fan, very worrying to see. Now, again, I do believe this has happened multiple times over the last few seasons where the Dodgers have a rough stretch right before the All-Star break, and then we're dominant after the All-Star break, have a rough stretch to end the season, kind of a thing. Worries me every time, but I think that's just kind of Dodgers baseball, as of the past few years, you could say. The Rockies, since, that Stevens team, we'll take a look at the Rockies. Again, they're still showing signs of life. I think the unfortunate part is just its pitching. I think that is really just really killing this team. You got the guys who have offense. They can hit really well. Even in close games, you could say, they've had a lot of close games this season, close losses. Unfortunately, I think it's just the pitching that's kind of just killing them. If we look at pitching, oh golly. Oh golly. For qualifying pitchers, you could say, and relievers, only one pitcher has below a 3 ERA, and it's Brennan Bernardino, who has a 2.97. Everybody else has above 3. All of the starters, most of the consistent relievers, yeah, that's unfortunate, to say the very least. Yeah, I think the Rockies, come trade deadline, as we'll approach that after the All-Star break, need to make a move for some good pitchers, or maybe take a look if they have good pitchers in their farm. Because it's not good on the pitching side of things. Unfortunately, they don't have good strikeout numbers. They don't have good ERAs. They have okay whips. Most of the pitchers do, but it's just, ugh, I'm so sorry, guys. Yeah, it's just not the most, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Not the most stable, I guess you could say, for the Rockies with their pitching. So they definitely need to look into some pitchers come trade deadline. But let's get into talking about the All-Star look ahead. I mean, we look at we'll start with the home run derby, which is tonight. You have Munetaka Murakami participating from the White Sox, who spent the last half of the season, a good portion of the first half injured. He has 20 home runs, which is still a really good amount of home runs. Most players have still not caught up to him or are tied with him. Obviously, Schwarber is in the home run derby at 32 home runs of the Phillies. Bryce Harper as well has been named to the home run derby, 20 home runs on the season. You have Jordan Walker on the Cardinals with 22 home runs. Wilson Contreras with 20 homers on the Red Sox. Interesting thing here, you have Jack Caglione from the Royals, who only has 14 home runs. Um, Really interesting that he's in the home run derby instead of some other players I can think of. And you got Ben Rice on the Yankees, who has 28 home runs. Junior Caminero on the Rays, 27. And that is everybody in the home run derby. An interesting lineup, to say the least. I definitely was thinking that you would see um, more players from the National League, I would say. There are a lot of um, American League players, but you only have the two players from Philadelphia. You have three players from the National League in it, so really interesting. I mean, Shohei leads the Dodgers with home runs, but he obviously pulled out, and I don't think he's been named to the home run derby a single time, which is really surprising. I'm surprised he wasn't named to the home run derby. Um, his 50-50 season. Hold on, I need to look if he's participated in the home run derby. Okay, in 2021 he was. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought he was one time. I think, yeah, interesting that he wasn't in his 50-50 season, considering the fact, he hit 50 home runs that season. But I digress. Um, I mean, obviously, I think, you're going to be rooting for your home team. I think it would just be interesting to see who, actually wins. Again, I think it's really interesting that Caglione is participating when he only has 14 home runs on the season. Like, how is this picked? I mean, if we look at stats leaders for home runs this season, you know, you have Jordan Alvarez. I know he was named to the All-Star roster as the DH, but you also have, you know, Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber are on the All-Star roster and are also participating in the home run derby. Junior Caminero also is participating in the home run derby. You have Hunter Goodman. Okay, like, come on now. Hunter Goodman should be in the home run derby this season. He has 27 home runs, and most of them are away, like not even in Coors Field. I don't know. I think there are a lot better picks than you know Jack Caglione, who has the 61st best amount of home runs. Sorry, the 49th best amount of home runs. 15. I guess he hit another one after this MLB blog was posted with the roster. Yeah. Some really interesting choices, I would say, um, for the home run derby. I mean, the people who have 20 home runs, sure, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, you have Jordan Alvarez who could be in it, James Wood, Hunter Goodman, Byron Buxton, Matt Olson, Colson Montgomery, Kazuma Okamoto of the Blue Jays, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Brandon Lau. I'm just like, I'm naming people who have over 20 home runs right now. It's just, I think it's, yeah, definitely interesting choice. I know I will not be rooting for him because I think that's dumb. If anything, I think it'd be cool to have Munetaka Murakami win it. I'm a fan. I've been a fan of him since, I first heard that he was declaring for the MLB. I think he has great potential, to say the very least. Um, but Junior Caminero, I think, would definitely also be deserving of a win. He has been a great hitter for the Rays this season. I mean, and Kyle Schwarber, who has the most home runs in the majors right now, would be pretty cool to see him win again. I don't know if he's ever won it. I can't remember, but really good. Um, yeah. let's talk about the actual All-Star rosters now. Um, because there's been a lot of changes to it. Yeah, so this was posted, I think this morning it looks like. Um, and it is tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern for those of you listening. You have starting for the American League, you have Shadling Lears at catcher, Ben Rice at first base, Ernie Clement at second base, Junior Caminero at third base, Bobby Witt Jr. at shortstop, Mike Trout in the outfield, Riley Green and Cody Bellinger out there as well to make out the trio, and Jordan Alvarez at the DH. You do have really interesting here. Um, there like a lot of first basemen for the AL have been named because Vlad pulled out. Um, I forget why Vlad was pulled out, but he is also an All-Star. Then Nick Kurtz, who is also an All-Star, but he will not be playing because of an injury, which is why Ben Rice is starting, and Wilson Contreras is the backup. Um, and then you have Aaron Judge and Byron Buxton in the outfield, but they were elected as starters, but not playing the game. So you have in the reserves for the AL, you have Dylan Dingler at catcher and Adley Rutschman at catcher. You have for the infield, I guess, kind of just covers everything. You have Wilson Contreras, Kevin McGonigal, Miguel Vargas, and Munetaka Murakami. And the replace, and then the outfield, Arozarena, Sedan Rafaela, and Tristan Peters, and then a DH, Yandy Diaz. Then your replacements are Tristan Peters, Sedan Rafaela, Munetaka Murakami, and Wilson Contreras. Those are all the replacements for the American League. And then for pitchers, you have Dylan Cease, Parker Messick, Nick Martinez, Drew Rasmussen, Joe Ryan, Cam Schlittler, Ranger Suarez, Michael Wacha, all in the starting pitchers, and Nick Martinez was named as a replacement, I guess, potentially for Justin Verlander, who's named as a legend pick for the AL, but he is out for the season. So your relief so Martinez will be in there for the starters, and then your relief pitchers are Brian Baker, Aroldis Chapman, Jacob Latz, Kate Smith, and Luis Varland, all for the American League. You have for there was only one replacement for the starting roster for the National League for the position players. You have Drake Baldwin at catcher. You have Freddie Freeman at first base, Ozzie Albies at second base, Max Muncy at third, C.J. Abrams at shortstop, Brandon Marsh, Juan Soto, and Andy Pajes make up the outfield trio, and Kyle Schwarber at DH. Ohtani was obviously the starting DH named, if you've been keeping up with the podcast or MLB news in general, but he is sitting out due to an injury. So you have Ivan Herrera of the Cardinals replacing that bench spot, who a lot of people were saying online, it's like, oh, anybody can play the DH spot, so just name a position player to the DH spot. So I mean, let's take a look at Ivan Herrera's numbers because I don't think I've covered this guy a whole lot. He is the DH, batting 249, 381, 390. That's a slash line with 11 homers and 40 RBIs and 346 at bats. I mean, I guess it's okay. I mean, if we look at stats by number, let me go to Statcast. That'll be a little bit better. I want, to take a look at DHs, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be searching for here because I want to look at just DHs here. But I mean, there are definitely a lot of other, players that could be, that we could have in for the spot. I mean, unless like it's specifically for, um, unless it's specifically for the DH spot and no another position player can't play it. I guess Ivan Herrera makes the most sense. I mean, you look at the numbers, he has the next best batting average behind Ohtani and Schwarber. and he is the only other qualifying DH for stat leaders in the National League. So it makes the most sense stat wise if they were to pick a player who wasn't a actual designated hitter. There are a lot better other options. You could pick literally any other player in the league, but if it's just DHs, makes the most sense to me. Um, so I'll finish out the bench here for the National League. Sorry, I got off on a little tangent there. The bench reserves players. You have William Contreras and Hunter Goodman for catcher. In the infield, you have Luis Arias, Bryce Harper, Otto Lopez, Matt Olson, and Sal Stewart. All in the infield. For the outfield, you have Corbin Carroll, PCA, Jordan Walker, James Wood. And then, like I said, Ivan Herrera in that DH spot. Now, a lot of pitchers have been named as replacements, either due to injuries or other pitchers just not like asking if they want to pitch and then being like, heck no. I think that's why Justin Robleski was just named to the All-Star roster. I think because Zach Wheeler decided he didn't want to be in it after being asked. So your pitchers, the starting pitchers are Braxton Ashcraft, Chase Burns, Jesus Luzardo, Max Meyer, Jacob Mizorowski, Eduardo Rodriguez, Chris Sale, Christopher Sanchez, Paul Skeens, Logan Webb, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Justin Robleski, Foster Griffin, and then the relief pitchers are Johan Duran, Rafael Iglesias, Mason Miller, and then Riley O'Brien. I think there were quite a few pitchers on here who don't deserve all-star spots. Paul Skeens is one of them. He's having his worst career season. I think there are a lot of other great pitchers in the league that you can put in here, named to spots. A lot of replacements. They don't necessarily know who they replaced, but your Braxton Ashcraft, Jesus Luzardo, Robleski, and then Riley O'Brien and Foster Griffin are all replacement pitchers for the All-Star game. A really large pitching roster for the National League. It's like almost double the size, or it has like 5 extra players than the American League. So very interesting here. I mean, we can talk about snubs all day. I don't necessarily like to get in the debate of who should be starting, who shouldn't be starting. If they both get in the All-Star roster, I think it's okay. But I definitely think there are a lot of other players that could have made it on here. I think of someone like, well, I guess, the first player I had in my mind actually did make the roster. But I mean, Juan Soto, I think you can make an argument for that he doesn't deserve just a spot, period. He hasn't been playing too great this season. I mean, the entire Mets organization has not. But I think he's still a solid bat, you could say. I think a lot of rookies who could have made the All-Star roster. I'm thinking like J.J. Weatherholt, T.J. Rumfield of the Rockies. I think there are a lot of Rockies players you made an argument for that could have had All-Star naming seasons or do have All-Star naming seasons this season. I think it's one of those things where it's like, you got so many really good players. It's just like, how do we name everybody? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different players who deserve to have an All-Star spot. And when you take a look at, if we just look at, batting leaders, I guess you could say, just across batting average. I mean, you got like Otto Lopez, who, he did get named, but he's a backup. He could very well be a starter. You got Troy Johnston and Jake McCarthy, the Rockies, who were not named. Jung-Hoo Lee of the Giants, probably could have gotten a spot as well. He's having himself a really good season. Michael Harris II, I definitely think that was a robbery. I think he should be on the team for sure. He is playing very well for the Braves. Who he would replace on the roster? Maybe Soto, you could say. Like I mentioned earlier, TJ Rumfield, maybe deserved a spot as well. I definitely think, I'm looking back at the AL here, Jonathan Aranda, he didn't get a spot, which I think is crazy. Same thing with Junior Caminero. I think both Aranda and Caminero should have gotten spots on the roster. You got Liam Hicks as well. He's a catcher, at least by batting average, better than both of the backup catchers that were named, and actually by batting average, the best catcher in the National League right now. Yeah, I mean, just a lot of players who I'm looking at like their batting averages, and it's just how did this guy got not get named? I mean, you got Chase DeLauder, could have been a pick for the American League from the Guardians. I think there are just a lot of really good players in the league right now. It's hard to pick everybody, and I definitely think fan voting kind of ruined it all. But I mean, like it makes sense to me. Fan voting makes sense. I talked about this in the fan voting episode a little bit. It was like fan voting makes sense to me. It's like the fans want to see who they want to see playing the All-Star game, but there's also the thing of, well, maybe they're just voting favoritism, and that player doesn't actually deserve to be an All-Star. So I mean, there's got to be like a fine balance somewhere. Um, I mean, maybe you can limit to, it's like for each league, you can only pick two players from the same team kind of a thing. I think that would, limit everybody from picking Blue Jays players, which is what we saw happen. And thankfully, a lot of them didn't get picked. Like you can pick two position players from a team and then two pitchers from a team. I think is kind of how, like to me, that makes the most sense. At least like how to limit it because obviously I'm a Dodgers fan and yes, my first ballot because you get 5 ballots that you can submit. My first ballot, I did pick all Dodgers players because I want to see my Dodgers players playing the All-Star game because they all have that caliber. Um, Whether or not they're at it this season, you can make an argument for or against. Um, but like there are definitely guys every season where I'm like, this dude's playing great, get him in there. Regardless of what team it's on, and then that player doesn't get in there. Um, so how we can circumvent that, I don't really know. Like it's really hard to kind of like fully like condense all the stats that a player has, as a batter into like one spot and defensively. Um, and really be like, yes, this player is the best at this position for XYZ reasons. Because sure, you can look at batting average, and Otto Lopez has the best batting average in the league, but he doesn't lead the league in home runs. He doesn't lead the league in RBIs. He doesn't lead the league in total bases, and he doesn't lead the league in like OBP or slugging percentage. Um, so sure, yes, he has the best batting average in the entire majors for qualifying players, of course. But it's really hard to just kind of like condense a slash line. It's hard to condense how many times they're on base, how many bases they've you know gone across, how many hits they have in total. Because um, is Otto Lopez the hits leader as well? Yes, he is. Um, yeah, it's just it's difficult really to try and you know fully grasp how good a player actually is. Like I definitely like Otto Lopez for sure. By far, just like hands down, leads the league in a lot of categories. Um, but then I mean, you got a guy like PCA who behind is batting 291, 386, and 531. And then Otto Lopez batting 334, 368, 505. So I mean, like PCA has a better OBP and slugging percentage, and a better OPS, and a better WAR than Otto Lopez. Um, so it's like, is it based off of batting average? Because he has a worse batting average than Otto Lopez does. PC has more home runs and more RBIs than Otto Lopez. So I mean, it's one of those things where it's really hard to just kind of like condense all the stats, all the metrics that we use to measure a player's success, and really be like, yes, you know, this is the best hitter in the league. And I think you could easily make the argument for Otto Lopez being the best hitter in the league without a doubt currently. Um, but I think you could also make the argument that Jordan Alvarez is the best hitter in the league, and that's probably where I would lean. Is that Alvarez is the best hitter in the league, batting 318, 426, 633 with a 1059 OPS and a 4.3 WAR. So I mean, just an incredible hitter. Um, yeah, but there's just so much statistics that goes into it. So it's like, even if we were to remove fan voting, how does MLB decide who the All Stars are? Because sure, they're going to pick their favorites. They're going to pick Shohei Ohtani. They're going to pick Juan Soto. They're going to pick Vlad. You know what I mean? Like they're going to pick the favorites, the players that people want to see to go in there. Even if they're having an awful season, they definitely don't deserve a spot in the All Star roster. I think it's very hard to try and like I've said, condense all of those stats to try and figure out this is the best hitter, this is the best pitcher, and then just go down the line from there. Because I think, in all honesty, that's what it should be done. It's like you sort by position. It's you look at all first basemen in the league and it's like, okay, who's hitting the best? I mean, we can do that right now for all qualifying first basemen. You look by batting average. Jonathan Aranda has the best batting average for all first basemen. Um, and then you have TJ Rumfield, and then you have Freddie Freeman. It's like if you just go by batting average, those are the three people that make the All-Star roster. Or maybe even just the top two who make the All-Star roster there. Um, then you look at like second baseman, you've by position, I guess, on whether or not they're, even if they're a utility player. You have Luis Arias, who's batting 330. Then you have Xavier Edwards, and then Ernie Clement. Um, it's just so hard to grasp everything, is what I'm trying to get at. Um, I think fan voting, if it's limited to a certain degree, I think is okay. Because as a fan, I definitely want to vote for my favorite players who I think deserve All-Star spots. I want to look into the statistics and be like, yeah, this player is batting very well, doing great in this category. Also, great defensive player. Let's put them let's put him in the All-Star game. It's just so difficult to really, really effectively decide how good a player is. And I think that's definitely a lot of the complaints that are online about it right now. I think those are also a lot of the complaints about the home run derby. I definitely have my complaints about the home run derby. The format that they're going with this year, I think, is great. I think the format is great this year. The players on it, I think we could have made some better picks. If it's up to me, you just pick the guys who are leading the league in home runs at the All-Star break. I think that's really it. And Jack Cagliano is not one of them. So why he is in the home run derby, I don't know. I hope he loses. Yeah. Regardless, I think it'll be fun. I think there's a lot to look forward to in the second half of the season. A lot of players who are supposed to come back from IL after the All-Star break or shortly after the All-Star break for a lot of teams. So all in all, I think it's just going to be I think we just have to remember as fans that, yes, even if your favorite player didn't get into the home run derby or the All-Star game, it's for fun. It is really what it's about. That's why it's high-scoring games. You don't see as much effort, which I think is really interesting to think about. It's like the All-Star game. You get to show off your skills, as a defensive player, as an offensive player. And then you don't really do that. I mean, like, the largest culprit of that is the NBA All-Star game. Every year I watch it, and it has just become All-Star week for the NBA has become more of a disaster as the years go on. But it's like you don't really see that many defensive plays in the NBA All-Star game. You just see a lot of crazy deep pull-up threes or like under-leg dunks, which you don't see in a regular play. Now I know part of that is like saving injury because you don't want to get injured in the All-Star game, which is understandable. But it's almost disappointing to a point when the players aren't trying to play their hardest to try and make the flashy plays, because that's what the All-Star game is all about. It's all about the best players in the league showing off their skills. But regardless, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be enjoyable to watch, and I think that's really where people kind of just miss the point at some point, where we spend all this time complaining about who got in, who didn't get in, why the format sucks, yada yada. It's just like, it's fun. Guys, it's baseball. Let's enjoy it. Like at the end of the day, and I've talked about this, like with my friends, with parents of my brother's baseball team. Like I've talked about, at the end of the day, it's a game. We're supposed to have fun. Especially fans just getting caught up in the drama of an event like the All-Star game. It's childish, really. Yes, like I said, you can talk about the guys who got snubbed. You can talk about the guys who don't deserve a spot in the All-Star roster. Sure. And I'll be in that conversation too, because certainly there's a lot of players who I think got snubbed. There are a lot of players who I think maybe shouldn't have spots. Again, hard to pick the people who actually get to play. But at the end of the day, it's a game. It's supposed to have fun. When I watch the All-Star game, I want to see the guys out there on the field just having fun. What they did last year with they had different players each inning with the hot mic, that was so much fun. When Clayton Kershaw started the game last season, the All-Star game for the National League last season, and they had him have the hot mic on. I thought that was so much fun. You know, you had the announcers, I forget who was calling it exactly, but just talking to him while he was pitching, which I think is so much fun. I think that brings another aspect to the All-Star game, which makes it more enjoyable. I think it's a great addition. I definitely think they should do it this year if they're not. Um, because it's fun. It's fun. That's what it should be. It should be enjoyable for everybody. And really that's where I stand with it. I don't think it's anything more, anything less than that. But yeah, I think I'm just rambling at this point, kind of going in circles. But the All Star game is supposed to be fun. Let's enjoy it. Home Run Derby tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. All Star game tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We're looking for people to run a social media page. Please, please, please. Please, we need someone to run our social media pages. We need someone to make graphics. We need someone to do all that stuff because Steven and I cannot do it by ourselves. Uh, so if you're interested, please reach out. We are Baseball Now Podcast on Instagram and then Baseball Now Cast uh, on X because podcast is too long of a username for some reason. I don't know why. Um, but go check us out there. Reach out on those social media pages if you are interested in being a social media manager. We cannot pay you. I'm sorry, because we don't make any money. But if you just have some extra time on your hands and you're a good graphic design artist, show us your work, and we'd love for you to come on the team to help make this podcast grow and be better. But that is it for this week. So thank you everybody so much for watching, and I will see you guys after the All-Star break. Peace out.